Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Chris Martinez. I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom. And in my day job, of course, I am the CEO and founder of Bloom, where we work with marketing agencies and provide management consulting and technology to increase your profit, maximize your agency's value, unlock your potential, and achieve an 8-figure exit one day. Today, I have Lucas Sommer. He is the CEO and founder of Ad Apt. He is a serial entrepreneur, and he's got a lot of really, really fun stories that he's going to share today. So let's jump into the interview. Welcome to the show, Lucas.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Happy to be here.
I hope I pronounced your last name right. I should have asked that. Is it Summer or Sommer?
Close enough. It's Sommer, but
Sommer. Okay.
everybody goes with Summer. So my stage name is Lucas Summer. So you
Lucas
you
Sommer.
nailed it all
It's
good.
a good
Yeah,
it's a good DJ name. Lucas
I
Sommer,
know.
you know? Well, let's start off by I have some questions for you because I think you're the first valedictorian that I've ever had on the show, which is
Okay,
impressive.
sort of, but
So,
sure.
well, I
Yeah,
mean, it depends on how big the school was. So if it's a school of 20 people, no,
yeah,
but still it's impressive, you know? And then you grew up, you said you grew up in a small town in Oregon. Is it like
yep,
outside of Portland, I think?
yeah. About 45 minutes outside of Portland, town
Okay.
of maybe 15,000.
Okay, that's pretty small. Yeah. I mean, that's
Yeah,
definitely I've never lived in a town that's that small. Actually, like I read a book recently was talking about rural America and I've never been there before. Like I grew up in Los Angeles. Obviously, it's a massive city and it seems
yeah,
like it's a different country, like almost a different planet.
absolutely.
So you went to school, you grew up in this small town of 15,000 people. You were the first in your class. You earned a
Yeah,
scholarship to the University of Miami. What year was this at, by
correct.
the way?
I graduated in 2003 from high school.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So I graduated in 98, so I think you must be 5 years younger than me then. My math serves me
yeah,
right. Okay.
39.
Nice. You're almost 40. So you get a scholarship to go to University of Miami. Was that
Yeah.
your prime school, or were you going primarily because they gave you the money or some other reasons?
Um, Oregon's super gray and rainy and
Yes.
not so exciting. And so I was dead set on basically like California, Texas, or Florida,
Okay.
and looked around, wanted to go to a big school in a bigger city and basically do the polar opposite of what
Hmm.
my sort of, early stage of life was. And, got to Miami, saw the campus, weather's great, campus looks like a resort, a lot of pretty ladies out there, Ferraris at the stoplights, and I was like, you know what, let's do it. So I think I saw 4 or 5 schools, but once I settled on Miami and I got the scholarship, to me it was like no brainer. Might as well give it
Right.
a shot. Happy I did.
That's awesome. And did you kind of know what you wanted to study when you got there, or did you end up like changing majors when you were in?
I knew what I wanted to study. I was doing music and things like that in high school, and I was always very into finance and
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. So they had this program that was music business and the entertainment industry. That would be a minor. So I got a degree in international finance and then a minor in music business and entertainment industry. And to me, it was like, I want to be a record label guy or a
Okay.
manager or do something like that. And that aligns pretty well with Miami being very international,
Hmm.
and it has some entertainment stuff, not like LA or New York, but different version of that.
Right. Right. What was that experience like? Because I think about my own college experience and living in the dorms, and a lot of the kids are going back
Hmm.
to school soon, so it's actually kind of appropriate we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Like so my high school experience was kind of unique. So I played sports, and I was part of like the friends with kids that like the cool kid, whatever, idiots.
Yeah.
And so none of my friends were really that good at academics. I was always good at
Hmm.
academically. I was always good. Like I got good
Yeah.
grades, and my parents, of course, I was very blessed in the fact that my parents valued education. And so they
Yeah,
told me like, you're going to college one day since I was a baby, like,
for
and
sure.
that absolutely influences whether or not you go to college, in my opinion. So I ended up getting into UC Santa Barbara and party school. And I didn't know what to expect though. And so like I remember going to school and I was like, oh man, these kids are gonna be dorks and like I'm gonna be bored. And I get there and it was just completely different than anything I'd experienced. Everybody was cool, everybody was friendly, everybody like wanted to party and like just have fun, because it's freshman year, first time living away from home. And it just completely changed my life. Like I would not be the person that I am today had I not gone to that university. And I know university educations are getting a lot of flack, from a lot of people. A lot of those people are also selling courses, by the way. But like, what was your experience like when you first got to campus?
Definitely a massive culture shock. I think the town I grew up in is small, very predominantly white, Christian, rural America. And I don't think there's anything further from that than, South Beach, Miami. So, all different types of cultures, languages, and it's a great experience. Very friendly in some regards. I say that Miami is the most kind of European city in America because it has all the various cultures that come there. And if you're European and you're going to go to school in America and you don't get into, let's say, the schools in New York or the Ivy League or whatever, you're kind of asking your parents to send you to Miami. So there was great mix of folks there, learned a ton about, athletics and, Miami's a big football school,
Yeah.
athletic program. In Oregon, we don't even have an NFL team. So I was like, oh, I have to care about football all of a sudden. So, but I actually made, I don't know if it would be a mistake, but if I could go back, I might do it differently. Because I came in with the academic scholarship, I got to choose first my dorm selection and things like that. So I was looking at floor plans and I realized this other dorm had their own shower instead of doing like group showers on a floor.
Yeah.
So I opted in for that. And what I didn't realize is because athletes get to choose first, then academics get to choose second, and then general population gets to choose, I ended up essentially in like the upper class academic athletic dorm and completely missed the insanity of like freshman
Freshman
year.
dorm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it, for better, for worse, but all the partying and the debauchery that was happening, elsewhere, I wasn't really a part of it. Skipped the whole dorm life, or not dorm life, Greek life, didn't join a frat.
Yeah.
All my friends were like juniors and seniors in my first year, upperclassmen, a lot of football players. A lot of these guys went to the NFL, which is kind of a cool
Yeah.
networking thing for me. Stayed in touch with some of those guys. Not sure how to parlay that into the entrepreneurship career, but it's coming one day. So yeah, great experience. I still think, college is relevant and worthwhile. I know there's kind of, some animosity or resentment towards it now, but to me, I wouldn't say I learned a lot academically, but 100% learned how to like interface with different types of people, make relationships, just the cultural aspects of fitting in with a wide variety of people, I think was
Yeah.
probably the greatest thing that college taught me. And I think Miami, gave me a double dose of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on there. I had this one professor. He used to be the baseball coach at UC Santa Barbara, and then he ended up
Okay.
joining the sport management program. So I was a sport management minor, sociology major. And he said he told me this quote of there's no such thing as wasted knowledge. And he also said that
Hmm,
if you do college correctly, you should learn more outside of the classroom than you do inside of the classroom. And I was like,
100%.
dude, this is so brilliant, you know? And then I read the book. Have you ever read the book, The Lean Startup? Pretty famous book.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't quote it. It's not the Bible, but I know
Yeah.
exactly Eric Rice or Reese, right?
Nice,
I mean,
Nice,
Niece. There you go.
Nies. Maybe I think that's how you
Yep,
pronounce his name.
for sure.
But that was another book where it's like I don't remember a whole lot, but there was one quote. There was like one section within a chapter where he talked about education and how
Yeah.
the type of education you get will help you will help determine the types of problems that you're able to solve. And I thought that was
Hmm.
so smart because the UC system in California, it's very theoretical. You don't learn a lot of practical stuff, which is kind
Yeah.
of annoying, like when you're trying to get a job, right? Because there's other kids that went to school for sales and marketing,
Sure.
right? And I was my
Yeah.
first job out of college was in sales. And so they had just been prepped a little bit better on how to answer some of these interview questions, right?
Right.
Now, I
Right.
could learn how to do that. I learned how to do that very, very quickly. But I think now as an entrepreneur, I appreciate all the theory that I learned because I can, in our business, we're having to solve problems. I think it's the same with yours. We're having to
Yeah,
solve problems all the time, like problems that kind of nobody else has ever had to solve. And
for
so I
sure.
think that my education kind of helped me to create frameworks and understanding how to solve those problems. Long story short. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Anyways, all right. So let's keep going on your journey. So eventually, I
Yeah.
think you started your first business in college, and then you were like advising people on entrepreneurship, both students and alumni. And
Yeah.
then at what year did you start Ad Apt, and how did that come to be?
Sure, sure. So first business was, I set up a recording studio
Mhm.
in my dorm and then in my apartment and, doing rap songs with all different types of folks and
Were you
charge them by the
producing or were you
hour.
also rapping?
So, in terms of entrepreneurship, it was like I was making beats, so producing and then doing engineering, like
Okay.
recording their stuff and dialing it in so it sounded, B plus, let's say, and just hacking all that stuff together. Did I happen to do some rapping, some singing, some artistry, some songwriting? Yeah, I would write a lot of hooks and help people out in that regard. And if you
Okay.
look deep enough on the internet, you could probably find some cringeworthy stuff that I've made.
Oh,
But
we're gonna have to find
that's
this. I'm gonna
yeah,
put it in
it's
the show
another
notes.
it's another life. Not really the point of the thing. The point is this, all these artists came in and I'd help them with the song, they'd all leave and they didn't really have anything else to do. They'd go play this at that time, the CD in the car with their friends, and that's
Yep.
great. And I just realized that I'm like, all these guys need marketing. They would come to me and ask, well, how'd you get your MySpace page like that? How'd you get the email address thing to go like that? How can I sell tickets? How can I get a PayPal donate now button on my thing? And that the technical computer side of all that stuff was just very, I don't want to say easy for me, but it came naturally, let's say. So I started saying to folks like, hey, well, let me manage that for you. Let me do this. One thing led to another. It turned into kind of my senior project, if you will, for the minor I was getting in music business and entertainment.
Mhm.
And so I made this idea that was for a social network for musicians where it would turn your fans into your sales force. And so Chris makes a song, he puts it on his profile. I say, hey, I like that song. I'm going to add it to my profile. When people would listen to Chris's song via me or buy it, I would earn a commission
Okay.
on the sale of Chris's music, sort of like the Amazon affiliate model,
Hmm.
but applied to independent artists. And I thought, that was super awesome. I actually got a feature in the Wall Street Journal. I won a business plan competition, and sort of a friend of mine whose family was in entrepreneurship had, let's just say, some extra investment capital, backed this project, put together this social network for musicians, had to learn software development, managing creative teams, putting a product out there, signing up, customers, customer journeys, email marketing. At that time, like spam based and Twitter was actually kind of effective. You could run these bots and DM enough people and make them come to the site. So I got very good at customer acquisition using the internet to like get random people to sign up. But the business itself, and this is all going somewhere, just wasn't profitable. It's extremely difficult for you to make any money in music, period. Secondly, now you have this, only the top like 500 artists in the world are actually making a good career in commercial music. Then you have millions of people that are trying and barely scraping by. And then you got someone like me trying to make software to help those people monetize. There just isn't really enough money to be had there. It might be a
Right.
big problem, definitely worth solving. Can you make a sustainable business out of it? No. But what I did do is I said, well, you know what? We're actually getting really good at these kind of managed marketing services for one-off artists, but they don't have any money. Why don't we just sell this service to people that do have money? So in Miami, every time we went out on a lunch break, I would talk to the restaurant owner and I'd say, hey, these burgers are great. Why don't you let me run your Twitter, run your Facebook? And this is before any of that stuff was cool. This
Yeah.
is like,
It's before Ty
I don't
Lopez
even,
released his course and everybody started doing
way
it.
before. Correct, like way before all that. And when you could schedule with Hootsuite and Buffer and TweetAdder and TweetDeck and all this stuff was like little software tools that would make it happen for you. And that just worked right away. We were at that time charging probably $300 a month for a managed Twitter presence. And I'd sign up 10 restaurants, get an intern, sign up 10 more people, get it, hire somebody. And that was my first real taste of, arguably success. It's hard to define as success, very small money, but I was like, wait a minute, we're growing sales each month. There's something here that, the lines are going up. I'm not getting rich, but I can sustain my kind of college apartment roommate lifestyle with this company. And so that, I ran from 2011 when it started to pick up speed till 2014. And I sold it in 2014. That was my first exit. That company was called Socialated. And
Mhm.
so it was supposed to be the automatic process of social media. Social and ATD is like
Ah,
automated. So
okay.
what it meant at the time. Didn't know what I was doing, but I was throwing stuff at the wall and it was, starting to work. We started to get, better clients. These are like doctors, attorneys, started doing like white collar professionals type of businesses. And we grew it, I think we had at the time 11 full-timers, a couple part-time guys. And throughout the course of that, became very good at web development, social media management, the email marketing game. And if people said, hey, can you do X? We just said yes. And then we figured out how to do it. So that ran till 2014. I sold that. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was the most money I had ever had. And I wanted to take a break, came back to Oregon around that time and planted this vineyard out here in Oregon. Oregon's big into wine. We'll get back to that one later. It takes a while to develop. So got that in the ground, spent literally like 2 months on a tractor, let the beard grow super long, turned off all my devices, was off the internet, didn't care, and just did some outside stuff with chainsaws and ended up smelling like diesel fuel and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool. Along the way, though, after I'd sold that business, all my main clients were kind of frustrated with the company that acquired it. They wanted to get back with me. So after some non-competes expired, folks just kept reaching out saying, hey, will you do this for me? Will you do this for me? And so I started taking them on as like a more of a consulting role. And I tried to be out of the space, tried not to do, let's just say, digital marketing for individuals and companies. Like I literally wanted to take that hat off, but the universe kept asking for it. And to me, I always give people the analogy. It's kind of like the movie Happy Gilmore, where the guy thinks he's a hockey player and the universe is like, you are a
You're
golfer. So I'm like, fine. And so, it's always been that way for me. I'm always that kind of web guy that people recommend or know about. And so, I was freelancing for a while. One of my main clients is actually this high-end footwear brand from Miami, and he really needs some help. The business was struggling, and I helped him raise about $3 million to put some investment capital into the business and save that company. And that pulled me in for about 18 months, almost 2 years. I was making shoes for NBA guys, going back and forth to Italy and Brazil and China. We were in Saks and Barney's. I learned just about everything about fashion and influencers and Shopify and merchandising and all, a whole lot of new stuff that I had never really encountered. And that was really cool. But still, at the same time, these marketing clients were still always paying me personally like a retainer. So I had this like major project I was working on and probably 7 or 8 folks that were just keeping me on retainer to do some stuff for them. Footwear project didn't work out, variety of reasons. So I bowed out before that ship actually hit the iceberg, but I saw the iceberg coming and was like, there's nothing that I can do. You've asked me to operate the business, but this is math. And unless something fundamentally changes, like it's going to get to zero. So I left before then. And, anyway, longer story, there's some other gray areas in there, but had a personal situation with my parents. Father passed away. Mom needed some help back here in Oregon. And I figured, hey, a lot of stuff's changing, kind of in a career transition, was married with kids at the time and was like, I'm not so sure I want to raise my kids in Miami. Came back out to Oregon around this time. The wine and the vineyard stuff was finally maturing. And so I was like, I'm going to pursue this business, still have the marketing stuff, and we'll give it a go out here in Oregon. So that finally brings me to Ad Apt, the agency. Because my retainer clients kept growing, I was able to kind of recruit my number 2 and number 3 guys from the original agency. They were both in Miami at the time. And I said, hey, come back. Housing is affordable out here in Oregon. We should be able to sign up people at will. Everything is so slow and like 5 years antiquated out here in Oregon that I thought that we could bring some East Coast vibes and effort and strategies out here to the West Coast. We'd be shooting fish in the barrel. That was actually a very flawed assumption and did not work out. And we can get more into it, but I'm trying to give you the whole arc here. So brought my number 2 and 3 guys out here, started building the agency back up, still getting more and better clients, kind of put our foot down, raised the prices, got more national deals, did like a Netflix deal, got a deal with Circle K, the convenience stores, Payless shoes. So some better logos for the site and a lot more variety in terms of the types of projects. Started doing custom software development, more interesting things, less like, hey, will you update my WordPress blog? Do we still do that kind of stuff? Yeah, sure. But we're constantly trying to like take on, more complex, difficult jobs from more complex and difficult clients. And we've been growing out here ever since. Ironically, not to throw any shade on Oregon, but 99% of our clients come from outside of the state because the people inside of the state, 1, don't understand it. 2, don't seem to want to grow their businesses. So that's my slight on the Oregon community out here. So they would much rather close the business down on Friday and go for a hike than they would open a second location. And they kind of look at you like you're you got a third eye or something
Yeah.
if you even suggest that type of stuff to them. So that's a big monster story. I'll stop there. Let me know what else I can go deeper on.
So I like that last part actually, because it's the same thing when we work with marketing agencies, right? Like there are people out there that like have no intention of building a real business that you could potentially sell one day. And it's like, I don't even want to have that conversation with you. Okay, cool. We're done.
Agreed. Yeah. You
Only I want to
future
grow. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. You've answered all future questions with your first answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I was single and I would ask girls, I'd be like, do you like dogs? And they say no. And I'm like, okay, date's over.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to talk about.
Filter. You failed at the first filter.
Exactly. Okay. So what are you guys working on now at Ad Apt? Because I know you still have some other things going on too. So like, what's the main focus here?
Yeah, sure. So, we are mainly focused on like sort of positive return on advertising relationships.
Hmm.
And so we don't do a lot of overtly creative stuff. We don't like the one-off, hey, make me a beautiful video, and we don't know where it goes or what the results are. We're very, recurring revenue, monthly retainer. You put in $1, you're getting $4, $5, $6, $7 back. And the clients that we still have today and that we work with consistently for many years now, all are in that relationship with us. And so, our goal and what we focus on is finding folks where the math makes sense. And that
Hmm.
could be a plastic surgeon who can get a qualified lead for, say, $400, but it's a $10,000 procedure. He's happy with that. Or it's an e-commerce shop selling, women's clothes and boutique items where, they're putting in $1 into Google shopping feeds and the feed format and getting $6, $7, $8 back. And we help them with customer retention and pushing up lifetime order values. And so, we're very flexible, we're very transparent, and we have a lot of technical expertise, I think, relative to most agencies or creative shops. We actually go do all the, heavy lifting on the IT side where most folks kind of fail or stumble. We make it all work, make Google happy, and lean into kind of the return on investment style methodology. We try to call it performance marketing. That means other things to other people, so we don't lean too much into that. But our point is that, if we work with 100 clients, 30 of them, the economics will not work for them. It's not our fault. It's just what you're trying to sell versus your price point versus the competitive landscape means Facebook ads just not going to work for you.
Yep.
There's another subset where maybe we're too expensive, but then there's like this sweet spot of folks where they think, instead of hiring the social media coordinator, the email marketing person, the Shopify person, my content production person, we can outsource like essentially the entire marketing department, to Lucas and Ad Apt and the team, and they'll power it for us. So we focus on those relationships where the economics work, we're growing together, and that, every so often we get to suggest a new channel, something new came out, a new widget for them to check out. We go explore that. If it works, we scale up. If it doesn't, we're quick to terminate those types of channels and initiatives that don't produce a positive return.
How many people do you have on your team now with Ad Apt?
So I think we're about 7.
Okay.
We got a job post out right now, so we're still trying to add to the team. So yeah,
Okay.
and we got some contractor types that come and go depending on the scope of work, and they
Yeah.
prefer to be more of a freelance role. But
Right.
core group, got some guys in house that meet us here in Oregon, got some guys in Miami as well that we let work completely remotely.
Yeah, that's great.
Band yeah, and it'd be great if it was bigger, but we're sustainable. There's no debt. We just grow when we have the revenue and the client base to support it. And that's really what we're focusing on now is how can we scalably get, the nth client to come in the door that isn't the Lucas relationship, isn't a referral, someone that we can, get from inbound. And it's hard to say that that's the struggle that we're facing, but it's definitely the challenge that's going to take us from where we're at now to the next step that we need to defeat.
So this is going to be probably going to have to be my final question just because of time.
All right.
How are you managing the agency? Well, I guess two parts of this question. How many hours are you putting in the agency every week on average? And how are you able to manage the agency and some of the other ventures that you have?
So I hope my co-founder doesn't watch this. I'm probably putting in 10 to 15 hours a week.
That's what I love to hear. Just so you know, I love to hear that. Our listeners love to hear that. Your co-founder, we'll just make sure that he does.
It's the goal. So it's definitely not a full-time thing. I make a lot more in terms of a distribution than a salary, which I think is correct. Keep in mind, I've been chipping away at this type of business for many, many years. So, I finally feel mature enough to kind of operate it correctly. There definitely was a time in the beginning and maybe even a couple years back where I was putting in 50, 60 hours a week and lifting all the weights myself. But, I've taken more of a step back, more of a sales and relationship role where, I'm typically originating and closing the new relationships, but the team has gotten very good at project management, a productized service offering where we know what widget we're delivering. It's not a different widget every single time, which was a big unlock for us a couple years back, to standardize all that. And I would much prefer to let the team grow and let's just say earn more or scale up, then I'm really concerned about me consuming all the work and then sort of by extension all the revenue. I want to grow. I want to build an organization that can exit. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Awesome. Cool. So there's 10 to 15 hours a week. Obviously, that leaves plenty of time to work on the other projects that you have going on. Live a happy life.
Yeah.
Be a happy dad.
In theory, working
Awesome,
on that one. But
yeah. I don't have kids, so I don't know, but I'm sure it's always a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, if you're having a good day, then the kids they'll do something. They'll mix it up for you. It's a whole nother entrepreneurial. See, now I'm working on my son's YouTube channel, 5 and 7.
Oh, okay. They're young. Right
on.
Yeah,
they're young. So now I'm like, I got one in the Code Ninjas class, and I told him if he got 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I'd buy him a Cybertruck. So that's kind of his project this year.
Jesus.
Building up the YouTube channel. Yeah.
When I was 5, I was happy to just have a soccer ball. Probably new pair of cleats.
I was cutting down grass with a stick. Like I was just that was the toy. I was just whipping flowers with a stick out here in Oregon, traps in the woods. So
now they get Cybertrucks. Good times. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Lucas. If anybody wanted to follow you or I don't know if you're putting out any content, what's the easiest way that somebody could connect with you?
I have most of the Lucas Sommer handles. So I got the domain. There's a YouTube channel for me. I'm not big on business related content. I'm not a big LinkedIn type guy, but hey, if you Google Lucas Sommer, if I'm doing my job right, you should be able to find me on those platforms. Lucas Ad Apt is a great way to reach out via email.
Okay.
And happy to chat with any entrepreneurs, any other agency owners looking to solve some of these problems. Oh, maybe we can plug this too for any kind of new folks out there. Running this free Discord server called The Launchpad. You can find it right there on the website. And that is the fastest, cheapest, freest way to access me and the team. And we do a lot of free consulting. There's all the resources over all the years that's been sort of accrued. We dump in there as kind of the learning resource center for anybody that's trying to get more out of their marketing and advertising efforts, or even just start a new business, period. We're in there to kind of chat you up and help you along your way.
I love that, man. Great job. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. For all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure that you follow Lucas and join that Discord. Sounds like it's awesome. So we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Thank you. All right. Take care, bud.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you would subscribe to the podcast and also share it with friends, family, and basically anyone you know who will find the same value in this episode as you do. So, to get the latest from me, then let's connect on social media on the Facebooks at facebook.com or Instagram. Then you can also find us on LinkedIn, YouTube. Finally, go to our website where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. Register for live trainings on how to run a highly profitable agency, and you can see exactly how we help marketing agencies fix their operations and scale to 8 figures and beyond. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you next time.